Welcome to rSlash Bestof Redditor Updates, where OP's brother-in-law throws red paint on her wedding dress in the middle of the wedding. Our next Reddit post is from rSlash Relationship Advice. I'll preface this by saying that I love my husband, and I'll do anything it takes to stay with him till the end. We dated for 2 years before marrying last year, and before him, my life was a mess. Now, I'm the happiest person alive with him, and I never want this relationship to end. My husband's name is John, and his brother's name is Brian. This all began a year ago before the wedding. My husband's brother Brian has always been a screw-up his entire life, but 2 years ago he sobered up and moved in with his and John's parents. John's father owns a car dealership and is quite wealthy. John grew up quite rich, but never really liked that lifestyle and decided to become a nurse instead of working for his father. Brian started working at the dealership and has turned his life around, according to John's parents. I met him a few times, and he creeped me out and was very inappropriate. He commented about my butt and even tried to grope me once, but John stopped him. I was very adamant before the wedding about not inviting Brian. John has a strong relationship with both of his parents, and it's a reason why I admire him. So when John's parents said they wouldn't attend if Brian couldn't, I gave in and invited Brian. This is where everything went wrong. The wedding was amazing, but Brian came up with a so-called prank. He found a half-full can of red paint in the church utility closet and thought that it would be funny to dump it on me after the ceremony. What? When I went to the bathroom, he jumped around the corner and splashed the paint all over me and the dress. I was hysterical and wanted to call the cops on Brian. John calmed me down and kicked Brian out of the wedding. A bridesmaid lived nearby, and I used her shower and she lent me a dress to wear. From then on, I've never talked or been near to Brian. John is very understanding, but every year insists that we go to his parents for Thanksgiving and Christmas. He won't budge and says that he can't cut his parents out of his life. However, Brian is still living with his parents and attended Thanksgiving and Christmas with them last year. I somehow got through both of them last year, never going near Brian, and staying next to John the entire time. Last week, I got sent a picture of a male body part. Then a text that said, "I bet you mine is bigger than my brother's." I don't know how he got a hold of my number, and I was disgusted beyond all belief. I wanted to call the cops, but John told me that would just allow for Brian to torment us more. Yesterday, I told John that I will not attend Thanksgiving or Christmas with his family under no circumstances. John was very conflicted about the whole ordeal. He said that his parents are great people and that Thanksgiving or Christmas are all that he has with them. This has been by far the biggest strain on our relationship, and I can feel John and I moving apart. I don't know how to discuss this with John, and I need help. I've never done this before, and for the first time, I'm going to the internet with this issue instead of John. Then, 9 days later, OP posted an update. So, first off, my husband is adopted, and so is Brian. Because of this, there are a few things that changed their relationship. John was adopted at the age of 3 and doesn't remember anything other than his adoptive family. However, Brian was adopted at the age of 9 when John was 6. Brian is 6'5" and John is 5'10", and Brian has been bigger than John all of his life. John has talked about how Brian was sexually abused before he was adopted, and that's a reason why his mother and father have always held back. Brian has bullied John, and I don't mean typical older brother bullying either. John doesn't talk about it much, but I get the feeling that Brian has done some messed up stuff to him. After I got home from work, me and John talked for a long time, and then the next night and the night after that. What I discussed with him was the stress his family has put on me. He by no means agrees with what his parents are doing or anything Brian has done. He opened up and said that he felt that he was failing a bit. He teared up for a bit when he told me that he wished that he had done more about Brian at the wedding, and that he doesn't expect me to come with him to his family's ever again. He's a very shy guy and doesn't like conflict. He said that he would find a way for him to just go by himself for Thanksgiving and that he would just skip Christmas this year altogether. But an important thing I wanted after reading the comments was for him to explain to his mother exactly why I wasn't coming. I don't want Brian to get away with this and to expect me to be totally passive in the situation. The first night, John was hesitant about this idea, to say the least. He was afraid of many things that would happen if he did that. But the second night, after thinking about it at work, he decided it was the right thing to do. He's planning on talking to his mother next week. When I brought up the idea of couples counseling, John surprised me by saying that he would like to go to couples counseling. John said that he would research it and has scheduled a session for us next week before he calls his mother. I am very relieved and have felt much better. I think talking with John really helped and has assured me that John and I are on the same page. OP, I'm glad that you worked things out with your husband, but if I were in your shoes, I would be a lot more pissed off at him because his brother basically gave you the Carrie treatment from the movie/book Carrie, except instead of pig's blood, it was paint and there's no murderous psychic powers involved. Our next Reddit post is from r/OsLegal. I'm close friends with a coworker, and we've helped his mother in her 80s with house maintenance. His mother's neighbor, Elaine, was in her 90s in 2016 when Elaine's husband, who was in a home, died. While doing maintenance on my coworker's mother's house, I drove there in my 1975 Falcon, and the neighbor, Elaine, came out to ask me to have a look at some cars that I might like that had belonged to her husband. I won't go into detail, except 3 were in good drivable condition and worth a decent figure, and 2 were ruined, but they were good parts cars. At the time, I couldn't afford anywhere near what they were genuinely worth. I told her what they could fetch on the open market, but she was happy to take $5,000 for all 5 cars, well under their value. She wanted to make sure they went to someone who would appreciate them, and I paid for and collected them a week later, and I still have the 3 good ones. 2 now on historic registration and the other in storage. Elaine passed away in the middle of this year, and her grandson is on the warpath over the cars. He found my contact details and phoned me several times, threatening to sue for effectively stealing the cars from his grandmother, and has turned up at my front door once demanding the return of the cars. I haven't been served or received anything in writing from him in a legal sense, only his business card, which sounds dodgy. I verified that he's an actual lawyer, as he claims through a website of his employer, which lists him with his photo as specializing in commercial and insurance law, just like his business card. If need be, I could now afford the market price of all the cars. Is the grandson likely to have a case, and should I find a lawyer of my own? Then, 13 days later, OP posted an update. I spoke with my coworker about the issue, and he talked to his mother, who clued me in that her neighbor Elaine doesn't have any grandsons. My coworker's mother is still in contact with Elaine's son and daughter as they own and still work on Elaine's old house next door. She put them in contact with me. They wanted to know who this guy was, who was actually threatening about the cars, as Elaine doesn't have any grandsons, and we spoke. They identified the lawyer's grandson as an old ex-boyfriend. He was once a partner of, but not married to, one of Elaine's granddaughters for a few years. He's also known to be in a lot of debt, which might explain desperate hunting for valuable items. Elaine's son and daughter reiterated that their dad had left instructions to Elaine for the cars to go someone who would cherish them, and they were happy they did, and glad to hear from me that they're still being looked after together. Small update. Fake grandson came around twice more. I now have multiple records of him visiting my residence, threats via text, and many phone calls to me after I asked him not to contact me again except in writing. Complaints have been made through my lawyer to his firm and relevant regulatory bodies. I informed him of the complaints on Thursday and reiterated not to contact me again, and I haven't heard a peep from him since. Last update. Fake grandson has already been dismissed from the firm before my lawyer and I complained, and he already had complaints against him for other reasons. Obviously, we don't know how this guy is in debt. I'm just gonna guess that it's law school debt. So it'd be very funny if this guy tries to scam OP to pay off his law school debt and then ends up losing his law license in the process. That is poetic justice. Our next Reddit post comes from r/AmITheButthole. I'm a 35-year-old woman, and I live with my 2 indoor dogs in a 3-bedroom house, and my brother stays in one of the spare bedrooms every now and then. An old friend of the family and his wife with 3 kids will be coming into town for the next couple of weeks. They'll stay for 3 days, and they asked me to accommodate them because I have the space. I declined, stating that I do not have guest bedrooms and that they're used for both office space and my brother's personal space. They were pushing to stay at my house regardless, saying they can sleep in my living room, stating their kids can sleep on my sectional and they can bring an inflatable mattress. I declined again, stating that my dog's crates are in the adjacent dining room area and that they wouldn't sleep well with strangers in their immediate space, and I get up at 6 a.m. every morning to take them out and feed them. They got mad, saying that I've always been welcome at their home. I've never gone to stay with them, and that this really hurt their feelings. Now I've gotten a couple of comments from other friends in common saying that I could have let them stay and that I was being selfish for not moving my dog's crates to another room, and that changing the routine for 3 days wouldn't have killed me. Then, one day later, Opie posted an update. While I was reading through the comments, I couldn't stop crying, in part because I was ashamed at the fact that I'm a pushover and that I allowed others in my life to just walk all over me for the most part. I've struggled with anxiety and depression for some years now, and I feel that the thought of any kind of confrontation just puts me over the edge, and I just usually give in to things that I normally don't want to do. Going out, hosting dinner, game nights, etc. You all made me realize that most of the people in my original group of friends are not the kind of people I want to continue being close to, and I've decided to slowly trickle away from them. We're not all who we used to be, and I feel that I've outgrown some of them. Now, back to the issue of the unwanted guests. My friend group decided to help them out with their hotel stay for the 3 days they'd be visiting. I told them to count me out of the whole ordeal, and that I'd made other plans for that weekend, and that I didn't appreciate how things were handled, nor how I was made to feel. Needless to say, they were a bit shocked, but I think that I'm done with them. So once again, thank you. Our next Reddit post comes from rSlash Am I the Butthole. I'm 28 years old, and I love my parents. They've always been great to me. They've loved me and supported me. They've been staying with me and my wife since we had a baby to help out, and if I'm being honest, it's been a great help having them around. Yesterday, my dad asked me to get the mail from his place after work so he can pay his bills. Well, I got the mail, and most of it is bills and ads, but one actual letter. I didn't think anything of it and gave it to my dad. He apparently threw it out, but my wife noticed it in the trash and read it. She didn't know what it was when she saw it. She brought it to me, and it was addressed to my dad as father, so obviously it's from my half-sister. She's pregnant and asking for money because it's harder for her to make it and she just wants to support her baby. I confronted my parents and yeah, she's 21, born from my dad's affair. He gave her money until she graduated. She writes him letters. She's apparently not in college because she's broke, and my dad thinks that she's stripping or doing adult work. He doesn't even know for sure. He just told me that he's done supporting her and she isn't his responsibility. We talked more about it for half an hour. My mom was quiet, and my dad has never been like that. I don't even have the word for how to describe how he was. It just made me so effing angry. I made them leave right there without even taking their things back. 'Cause it feels like it's my fault. I have a sister out there who's living like garbage while I'm out here enjoying my life. After looking into her a bit more, I talked to my 2 cousins 2 hours ago, and they're both divided on if I did the right thing. One cousin thinks that I was the butthole for making my parents leave without talking things through or even making a plan, but her sister thinks that I did the right thing. My wife told me she's staying out of it since she regrets reading someone else's mail. I just don't know myself. I feel like a butthole for making my parents leave because I love them so much, but at the same time, I feel so mad over the situation. Then, half a year later, OP posted an update. I want to thank everyone who said to go talk to my parents. That's the first thing I did. I went to their place and tried to talk to them. But it was frustrating, and my mom got angry when I said that I was going to reach out to my sister. She asked why I cared, and I got upset and told her because she taught me to. My dad saw me out after that and surprised me by telling me he was proud of me for being a better man than him. That was weird. Anyway, my wife reached out to my sister, Anna, and she agreed to meet. We went with my cop friend, Joe, because you never know. We met Anna in her apartment, and it's in a rough side of town. It's tiny and a terrible place to live. Anna is a small, quiet girl who works in a library. She reminds me of my gran. She claimed she's only a waitress at a strip club to make ends meet, but obviously she can't do it now. She said she's failed like her mom, and the best thing she can do is have her kids succeed. She said she just wanted the cash to take pregnancy classes. I gave her my number and some cash, of which she gave a lot back right away. That night, my wife asked if I could let Anna move in because she felt heartbroken. I gave Anna the offer, but she refused and said that she won't take advantage of us. About a month later, she called me crying and said there's black mold in her building and she has to go. She came to us with barely anything, just clothes, a wallet, a toothbrush, and a sack of old books. Since then, she's been sad and really alone because she thinks that she's taking advantage. She tries to help with chores a lot and always apologizes. She's only happy when she plays with our baby. But it was her birthday a few days ago, and she asked if we would get her cupcakes. It was like she expected me to say no. But my wife went and got them a whole Dairy Queen cake while I got her the box set of The Expanse books. She started crying and hugged us both when she saw everything on the living room table for her. In the days since, she seemed happier, and I won't lie, I'm worried for her, but I do think stability has helped her. As for my parents, my mom refuses to come as long as she's there, so I visit her with the baby sometimes. My dad refuses to go because he says he's ashamed. Whatever, I guess. On the other hand, my wife's parents told me they're more proud of me than ever. It's really interesting how two siblings can grow up to be so different because it's very clear that OP is assertive and confident and wants to do the right thing, whereas the sister is ashamed and unconfident and she sees herself as a burden to others. And it's just really sad that all it takes is a loving environment to turn into like a, confident, decent person. Okay, I'm not trying to say the sister is not a decent person. That came out wrong. I just mean that she's got some trauma that she's dealing with because she was abandoned and she doesn't really value herself, which is just sad. That was r/Best of Redditor updates. And if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.